There is hope for Britain as the Populist Reform Party just swept local elections, winning more seats than both major parties combined. Will there come a day when British people can joke about identifying as a fish or criticize mass migration and not get arrested? Last week, Britain held nationwide elections for local councils. In U.S. terms, these are somewhere between state legislators and county commissioners. The Populist Reform UK Party trounced both major parties, winning more seats than Labour and Conservatives combined. In fact, those major parties lost 2/3 of all the seats in play. The New York Times was in full panic mode, hyperventilating that populist Nigel Farage may have, quote, blown a hole in Britain's two-party system. The Populists ran on freezing all non-essential immigration, ending free housing for so-called asylum seekers, prosecuting illegal immigration, and an extra tax on foreign workers. It's not a terrible idea. They also want a British Doge, tax cuts for small business and blue collars, patriotic education in British schools, and scrapping so-called net zero global warming mandates. Now, for the moment, the major parties are still in charge. Just 1 in 9 local seats were up this election. And thanks to Britain's election system, Reform still only has 5 seats in national parliament out of 650. So we won't be getting that British Doge quite yet. The most of the changes near term is Reform now controls 10 local councils, which run things like education, welfare, housing, licensing, and, quote, community well-being. That's where the migrants come in. Reform will now use those 10 to showcase how they would run the country, especially on benefits to migrants, perhaps even that Victorian curriculum. The much bigger impact is that this is an existential rejection of the British establishment, who voters are overwhelmingly rejecting. In fact, never in British history has an upstart beat both major parties combined. Even during the Brexit surge, the major parties won 7 times more seats than the Populists. To get anything remotely close, you would have to go back to 1924. The context here is British Conservatives misran the country for 14 years, essentially ruling as American Democrats. So mass migration, global warming mandates, COVID, lockdowns, and vax mandates. The Conservatives literally built Britain's diversity police state that is currently arresting people for memes whilst welcoming migrant grooming gangs with open arms and open wallets. That failure lost Conservatives the election last year, delivering it to the Socialist Labour Party, who of course changed none of it and are now sporting a 25% approval rating. So the British hate the Socialists, and they don't trust the Conservatives to do anything different. That leaves the Populists as last man standing despite censorship, misinformation, and non-stop attacks by Britain's establishment on the same script they attacked Trump here in America. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. The next election in Britain is not required until 2029, although it could happen sooner if the ruling party approval stays in the gutter. When it does come, prediction market Kalshi now has Reform as odds-on to win national power. The only way for Britain's establishment to stop this is copy the common-sense policies of Reform, from migration to small business to free speech. What they'll probably do instead is double down on mass migration, social engineering, and the Britain last diversity police state, perhaps praying that censorship and the establishment firewall can protect them, even though it just failed to protect them. The British people have had it with their corrupt political establishment. The clock is now ticking. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.